Hello, I'm the Angry Spork. Now here's a crossover you don't see every day. Characters from completely different franchises interacting, all within one's ongoing title. I'm taking issue with GEN13, number 13, A, B, and C, which is how they celebrated the second volume, making it a whole year of publication. Let's see if these comics make us want to turn the page, or turn our heads. Written by series co-creators Brendan Choi and Jim Lee, as well as J. Scott Campbell, who does art alongside Alex Garner and Peter Guzman, Part A's cover has a sepia-toned background of covers from various issues, as the team stands around on guard. It's a fine scene, nothing too bombastic, but still acknowledging the milestone nevertheless. For those who don't know, the short version of the group's history is that they were each raised by covert agents of international operations, who later gathered them in a prison-like facility. After they manifested superpowers and escaped, they formed a team to fight back against the clandestine group, in between other youthful and superhero shenanigans. Originally, they were going to be called Gen X, but Marvel obviously didn't like that idea. Kinda makes those crossovers with Jubilee's team make that much more sense in retrospect. Their mentor John Lynch has taken them to a San Diego shopping mall for some shopping, though it's mentioned they don't really have a lot of cash. While the others window shop, occasionally lamenting what they can't afford, Grunge breaks off to a very packed comic book shop, saying a rare comic is being auctioned off. An issue of Captain Pyro with a limited edition chromium cover, the only one in the entire city, going to whomever has the winning ticket. So by auction, he actually meant raffle. Is that a writer's mistake, or proof that Grunge doesn't know what words mean? His friends don't really get what the big deal is, until their android maid Anna clarifies that the copy has a low printing and a high demand, with a current asking price of $79.95, alongside a 10% monthly appreciation rate. Meaning that every 30 days or so, the owner will acknowledge the comic 10% more. While a couple of the others tease Grunge over this fixation, his girlfriend Roxy defends him.
Besides, comic books aren't just for kids anymore. They're big business, right?
Sure. For the larger company that owns the rights and turns them into movies, shows, video games, and so forth. Okay, that was a little too cynical, because you can make money reviewing comics. I mean, not me, but some people do, I hear. I'm sorry, I need a moment. I'm not crying, you're crying! Grunge brushes off what he mistakenly thought was Roxy's sarcasm and goes to buy his tickets. The eventual winner is a stereotypical nerd who bought $80 worth of tickets, and Grunge is none too thrilled. As he walks off in a huff, Caitlin tries to sway him towards some indie titles she found interesting, but he can only be a condescending smart aleck about it. And yeesh, I know Fairchild is supposed to be taller than average, and apparently Grunge is on the shorter side, but this panel makes the lunkhead look even smaller than usual. Anyway, the gang grabs some lunch as Grunge sulks and complains, with the others trying to convince him that there are more important things in life, like quality time with his friends. But this argument fails to convince. No offense, Sarah, but there are 4 of you and only 1 Captain Pyro. You do the math. 3 of them are industry mandated to be conventionally attractive, and 1 of them is your girlfriend. Somehow. Punch those numbers into your calculator, peewit. With his burger giving some gastrointestinal distress, he makes a face that matches his intelligence and heads to the bathroom, lamenting how his friends have treated him. Hey, I know when I'm not wanted. Well, just in case, let me make the point clearer. As he washes his hand, a stranger approaches, offering a copy of the coveted chrome-covered comic. All the man asks for in exchange is the young man's eternal soul. Grunge barely hesitates, just shy of salivating, as he agrees. So this is how Mephisto got started. First it was selling comics for souls, then working his way up to superhero marriages. Grunge runs back to his friends with his acquisition, clarifying that he did not steal it from the winner, rather it was given to him by some rando in the bathroom, who has suddenly disappeared.
that guy in the commode is giving away comic books?
That was Dan DiDio's plan to unload all those unsold New 52 titles. Grunge begins feeling woozy, possibly from those burgers, then passes out in front of his worried friends as things begin to go black. He died and went to hell for trading his immortal soul for a shiny comic. Good night, everybody! No, in this black void, he's met by a tiny but very familiar-looking fairy with partially dyed hair. This is Tinkerfall, sent by the Good Witch to help Grunge traverse the land of sequential art. They use initials for the last 2 words throughout the story, but because those letters relate to a serious crime and heinous immoral act, we'll be going with LOSA going forward. Grunge is ready to get out, but the only one who can help him do that is the Great Wizard. Their first stop is Riverdale High School, where they meet Archie and his friends, whose comics Grunge, incidentally, read when he was younger. While the All-American Ginger is quite welcoming of this stranger, Veronica figures he can't be from around here, compounding her blonde friend's remark.
Do it now, call her Betty.
Jughead assumes he's a burger man, thus all right by him, but Reggie thinks he could be trouble. What kind of guy wears a penguin on his shirt? That's your criteria? Not the fact that said Arctic bird is packing heat? They all head to Pop's Diner, where Grunge mentions his quest and guardian fairy, whom no one else can see or hear, so they're skeptical, and is out-gluttoned by Jughead. Betty and Veronica leave to pick some new songs from the jukebox, and their eyes seem strangely different here, like they're more lifeless than before, and each one's giggle giggle doesn't make it any less eerie.
I don't feel safe.
Nor any more distraction from this odd formatting error with Ronnie's dialogue. Grunge can't believe that Archie is only friends with the 2 total babes who suddenly appear in Campbell's style.
In Latin, she would be called Babia Majora.
If she were a president, she'd be Abraham Lincoln.
Tinkerfall bonks him on the head with a small cudgel, reminding him they've got things to do as more artistic swaps occur. Archie and the guys also looking updated, while Grunge is briefly more retro. These deviant art challenges are getting out of control, I tells ya. Still wanting to get to know the girls better, Grunge whispers something to Betty about doing something before he goes, but she slaps him.
Betty.
And so does Ronnie.
I'd never date you, and neither would I.
Let's be honest, he wasn't really talking about dating, so feel free to hurt him some more. Maybe if he was on that CW Riverdale series, he would have had a shot. Humoring the newcomer, Reggie tells Grunge he can find this great wizard in the Valley of the Dolls, along with even more beautiful girls, and that sends the young super on his way, even though he was never given specific directions. Archie is worried, since Reg forgot to warn their guest about the bad girls. Oh, come on, Arch. How concerned can you be if you're not saying anything yourself? He's right there, after all. You can catch him if you want. Either these bad girls aren't very dangerous, or you want Grunge dead too. Just admit it. Issue B's cover sees our protagonist, let's call him, back-to-back with Phone Bone from Jeff Smith's Bone, beset by his adversaries, the rat creatures. It's been a while, but I have read a few volumes of Bone, and it's a delightful fantasy tale I suggest checking out, if you haven't already. We continue with Grunge arriving upon the Ninja Turtles buried under a pile of their own licensed products. The dangers of oversaturating the market have boomeranged right back at them. I bet it was all those sports-themed figures that done did it. According to Tinkerfall, the Good Witch said the Terrapins can help them on their quest, so Percival, yes, that's actually Grunge's first name, frees them from the pile, recognizing items from his own collection as a youngster. After freeing them, Leonardo explains what happened. We got 86'd by the Frenzy Beast and his Power Ranger peons. Is the Frenzy Beast Zordon? Considering they have alien superweapons and giant dinosaur mechas, you should be grateful they only pinned you down by your own merch. Seriously, that is a clever nod to how the TMNT popularity took a hit when Saban reworked Super Sentai for the US. Now, after all their success and 3 movies, they just want to be comic book heroes again, but also want to repay the guy who saved them. Grunge asks for the way to the Valley of the Dolls, only for Tinkerfall to slap him, so he specifies they're looking for the wizard. But why hit him? I mean, besides the fact that it's Grunge. Yeah, he figures there are saucy ladies there, but that's where Reggie told them the wizard was, and Tink didn't exactly raise any objections, so wasn't he technically asking about the wizard's whereabouts anyway? Said mythic mage is pursuing the frenzy beast, so he should follow the monster's path of destruction, carved into the ground as it grows in power, simultaneously destroying more of Losa. This eventually leads Grunge and Tinkerfall to the Freelance Forest, finding two rat creatures about to make a meal of Phone Bone. The little guy happens to be Tinkerfall's friend, so she rushes in to help, blinding one of the creatures with her fairy dust and causing him to run into a tree. Grunge punches out the other one, though he didn't absorb the properties of a rock he was holding, meaning his gen factor powers aren't working.
Oops, I knew there was something I forgot to tell you.
Great! Now you tell me this? What else should I know about?
Being a self-centered jerk isn't charming, women don't like being catcalled, and no matter how mint condition they are, you'll never be able to retire by selling your Pog collection.
Phone decides to tag along, since he's headed in the same direction as they are, and eventually they decide to take a breather next to a fountain. Grunge figures he can at least rehydrate, but since he's getting hungry again, he thinks it's a bonus that he's found some tasty-looking beans in the water fountain, in the middle of a forest. Ignoring that they have appendages and dialogue, he tosses a handful into his mouth.
What's it like being a rocket scientist?
Phone mentions they're bean people from Bean World, who are subsequently spat out. Though ready to fight, they're basically fine and accept the three's apology, going so far as to tell them about the wizard, having heard that he was going to meet the Young Turks in Image Land.
Oh, and you with the stubble, you might want to see a dentist soon. Pretty sure I saw a couple of cavities, and your gums are not supposed to look blood red.
From a cliff, they get an eagle-eye view of Image Land, an independent country formed by the Young Turks, each town representing a different imprint of Image Comics, I'm assuming. Hence why Bone suggests the Young Turks do a good job taking care of themselves.
This is a rather shameless promotion.
As they enter the town proper, Phone says we'll have to check all the villages for the wizard, only to then say goodbye in the next panel, heading to Image Town for supplies, since he was looking for a place to relax until the frenzy beast was stopped from terrorizing the countryside. He must have a different definition of the word we.
We three, we the people, are my favorite. We!
You might notice what looks like an uncooked hot dog behind the top panel, but it's actually part of a sign for the Highbrow Club, an establishment where Savage Dragon acts as security, throwing out a miscolored Wonder Woman and a rather muscular green man. But his pants are brown, not purple, so no way is it the Hulk.
You gotta have a sense of humor if you're gonna fit in around here.
That's why Michelle Wolf was given a preemptive lifetime ban. After passing the Top Cow Barn with a relocated sign, they see parody versions of Youngblood characters evicted from their blood quarters. For a place where the founders were doing so well, there seemed to be a lot of vacancies. Captain Avenger and Black Frag say the wizard is probably in Wildstorm Keep, where he usually hangs out. The two soon arrive at the castle, but the guards don't know Grunge, figuring he must be here to sabotage Dr. Frankenlynch. According to Tinkerfall, no one ever really knows what's going on at Wildstorm Keep, and all the characters are paranoid and conspiratorial. No matter how many times you explain to them that healing potions do not cause autism, they refuse to listen. Fortunately, someone opens the door for them and they enter, met by child versions of characters from the DV8 comic, a series about other gen-active superheroes. They say Frankenlynch can help Grunge find the wizard, and he's upstairs trying to revive his monster. Sure enough, that's the scene Grunge finds. Someone resembling his mentor and his assistant in a ball cap trying to zap some life into a figure beneath a tarp. And someone off-panel complains they do all the work, but get none of the credit. Bill Finger? Is that you? They're surprised by the assistant, Lee Gore, a parody of artist Jim Lee, who knows all about the local goings-on. Leading them down a flight of stairs, he explains the wizard has already taken off to fight the frenzy beast, but will at least point them in the right direction. He offers a good luck charm that made him what he is today, a ruby cross, then tells them the answers they want will be in the alleyway. But his candelabra, which is a miniature burnout, tosses out the cryptic speak and tells them to talk to Spawn. When they find old Tall, Dark, and Spiky, he says the wizard is headed to the Darklands for his fight, explaining that the mage had created the frenzy to establish kinship among fans of sequential art and enlighten them about comic heroes. because nothing says building community and affinity like the name Frenzy. Just ask the Decepticons. The Beast, however, broke free of the Wizard's control, destroying Losa and turning fans away from the characters they loved. Spawn senses Grunge has the power to stop the Beast and must join the Wizard's fight in order to save the land. But Grunge doesn't feel like being the hero, merely wanting to go home, but is reminded that this vaunted sorcerer may be his only way back. To find him, he'll need to traverse Route 666, a path even Spawn himself wouldn't attempt. So who's going to guide Grunge there?
Hey, I'll do it.
Huh? Who are you?
Oh, he's a madman! A madman!
Issue C's cover has Grunge standing atop a pile of comics, while his female teammates lay at his feet in bikinis, and a bolt of lightning striking his limited edition comic. I have buyer's remorse! Also, Burnout seems to reach for Rainmaker's butt, which is super creepy. I've read that this is supposed to be a parody of a movie poster for National Lampoon's Vacation, but that itself was a parody of heroic fantasy art. Maybe the movie poster is where J. Scott Campbell first saw it. I don't know. Walking the barren Route 666 already, Madman explains the Good Witch told him that his friends were going to fight the Frenzy Beast and might need his help. So here he is. And there his friends are, the Max and Jungle Princess, who looks like Sarah Rainmaker in a leopard print two-piece. Is this and the girls on the cover meant to be that sense of humor Dragon mentioned before? Because I'm familiar with desserts, and it looks a lot more like cheesecake to me. More of that on the way, since the Beast has sent the bad girls, Evangeline, Sarah Pazzini, and Lady Mortem, a minty-colored copy of Lady Death from Chaos Comics. Grunge is too enthralled by a buxom woman wearing little more than a bikini and thigh-high boots to avoid being pinned down. Even as she prepares her sword to end him and take his prize back to her master, Percival just makes crass remarks and no move to defend himself.
He can't help it. He's an idiot.
He's spared by the Sohei warrior Shi and her trusty Naginata, as she stands upon a sports car driven by Katina and Francine from the book Strangers in Paradise. Do not let Lady Mortem seduce you with her secret charms. Yeah, the charms she's using aren't all that secret. This one act of interference is all it takes for the bad girls to flee, though Mortem warns they won't stand a chance against the Frenzy Beast's full might. After a joke about she not being bad, just drawn that way, so on the nose I don't need to use the Roger Rabbit clip, Katina and Francine insist real women can be heroic and make a difference without an exaggerated chest. Yeah, but it doesn't hurt. It'll hurt when you slip them $1 asking for a dance and they brain you with a 2x4. The pink Cadillac the girls were driving was actually loaned to them by the Wizard, so Madman can lead Grunge where he needs to go. Thus, they're on their way, just as Tinkerfall brushes off the flirtatious advances of the Princess Sarah. If this is all a dream, I imagine Grunge would have this in his head even if Rainmaker wasn't a lesbian. The Wizard has gone to fight the Beast alone, as Hellboy waits alongside Monkey Man and O'Brien, worried that they've been left behind and will need a miracle to survive. Instead, they get Grunge, who holds the chromium cover, meaning he's the key to stopping the Beast, who whirlwinds his way onto the scene. Rather neat design on the menace. Very unique, though I wouldn't be surprised if he was influenced by monstrous antagonists in other media. He's clutching the Wizard and ignoring pleas to end his rampage, telling the legends of sequential art before him to sell their souls to him so they might live. He then senses Grunge has what he wants, wanting the comic in exchange for his heart's desire. Which, for Percival, is probably unlimited cheeseburgers and a key to the Playboy Mansion. To hasten the deal, the Beast summons zombies that overwhelm the group, and Grunge opts to run away. Our hero, ladies and gentlemen. He's stopped by the Good Witch, who will be played by Caitlin Fairchild, encouraging him to follow his conscience. The others need him to do the right thing. Since he's still concerned with saving himself, she opens the floor to real-life self-help author and motivational speaker, Tony Robbins. He's going to help stop the zombies for 3 easy payments of $39.99. Tony's dialogue reads like pretty standard promotional speak. How he mastered his life has helped millions, and that Grunge can live the dream of a mansion and fancy car by harnessing the forces that shape his life. You grab Campbell's inking pen and poke him in the face until he draws you as a billionaire. With some references to Robin's actual books, the young man must follow his passion and forge his destiny, which really fires Grunge up. He goes to face the undead horde alone until Ligor's amulet glows. It's not so much a cross as an X, summoning Wolverine, who offers to take care of the zombies. Who are you, masked man?
Dumb.
I mean, he's only the most popular X-Man, not even colored differently or with some other letter on his belt buckle. How does the comic collector not recognize him? He doesn't seem to notice how several of these strangers he's met resemble his friends, so moving on. The Frenzy Beast has taken on Grunge's face and mannerisms, saying he only wants the Chrome comic to complete his collection. Since the teen can understand that, the giant offers to give him the fame, fortune, and women of a rock star's lifestyle. It's tempting, but his friends, absorbed into the beast's body, warn that Earth will be conquered next if he complies.
You'll only make the beast more powerful. With a complete collection, he'll have mildly more credibility in the online forums.
Grunge sees through the monster's ploy, promising he'll never get the comic, as he rips it apart. This causes a green apple explosion, with the beast saying Grunge will never get home now, but the teen seems at least satisfied that the villain's collecting days are done. A moment later, he wakes up in the restaurant, surrounded by his friends. Not sure how long he was out, but it seems they decided not to call an ambulance. He figures it must have all been a dream, caused by the Captain Pyro comic, despite having called Roxy Tink.
You're humongous.
The raffle winner approaches, saying someone stole his prize when he left the store, and without hesitation, Grunge returns the book to its rightful owner.
You're just gonna give it back to me?
There's more to life, my man. Like complaining to toy makers until they make the highly articulated figure of your favorite obscure character. Roxy is proud that he did the right thing, and Grunge, admitting she's always been there for him, does something he should have done a while ago, and pulls her in for a kiss. Given the reaction of the others, I'm not sure if this is their first kiss as a couple or something, but they all decide to head home, with Grunge again calling Roxy Tink, as Tinkerfall herself appears to end this tale. That was GEN13, number 13, A, B, and C. Although I don't know much about this series, and the primary focus was a character I find largely repellent, it was still a pretty good story. While maybe not always the most subtle at it, it is a clever parody of Wizard of Oz, showing Grunge reflecting on the entertainment he enjoyed as a child, starting with the very tame Archie, to the Ninja Turtles, who had a more family-friendly image in larger media even with the action and violence, and then to stuff the teen audiences and older would be drawn to, like Spawn, Lady Death, Max, Hellboy, and so on. Heavier subject matter, more graphic violence, stronger language, etc. He then faces the big bad, who ends up looking just like him, then sacrifices the comic he wanted so badly in order to save the characters that helped him along the way. Though admittedly we don't get any hint that Percival realized in his dream he had received stolen property, or really acknowledging how his behavior was affecting his friends. I suppose you could say his overly serious attitude in hopes of winning, pouting when he lost fair and square, was making him unpleasant to be around. True, he was teased by Bobby and Rainmaker, which doesn't make things better for him, but Caitlin seemed genuinely interested in the medium, despite Grunge's dismissal. I kinda see why he thought Roxy was being sarcastic when she was trying to be supportive. Comics are a niche interest, largely not taken seriously for a long time, or heck, even now after so many successful and popular movies and TV shows based on them. But none of that excuses his childishness. And maybe that's why he was, essentially, the Frenzy Beast at the end. He had a myopic, selfish attitude regarding comic books that not only alienated those closest to him, but saw him ignore perfectly viable indie-made characters because he was so focused on a mainstream book. It did poke fun at other Image characters, as well as Marvel and DC, but I don't think they meant anything personal behind that sense of humor crack. They did have Wolverine show up at the end to help out, so if there is any subtext to this, I think it would be that it's fine to like the more popular heroes, but that the more obscure ones are worth a look too. I'll admit I've largely focused on the big two my whole life, but in fairness, when you're a kid in a comic shop and see some lesser-known publisher's book with large-chested women on the cover in revealing and/or form-fitting outfits and saucy poses, you get the idea it's not really intended for you. I also got the sense there was a deeper message that comics can be for anyone, But certain fans, if they're too snobbish, too arrogant, too selfish, can drive people away, which hurts the industry and the characters they enjoy by preventing others from enjoying it as well. Furthermore, by tearing up the cover in his dream and giving the physical comic back, it could also be a statement that the story of a comic matters a lot more than whatever comes out of a sales gimmick, like a fancy-looking cover. There were some fun character parodies, as well as commentary on industry goings-on at the time. I have to assume, because I was never that invested in the behind-the-scenes drama, unless it directly affected what I was reading, nor was I a frequent image reader. Despite having been all in his head this whole time, and dreams not typically following firm logic, there are some things that don't get addressed, which makes you wonder why they were there at all. On a smaller scale, no indication as to who it was complaining about not getting credit for all their work. Maybe it was one of the writers, or candelabra burnout. Feels like a joke without a punchline. And no resolution on the comic thief. If he was just a regular guy, why didn't he ask for money? Why'd he want a soul? If the stranger was somehow supernatural, then is their bargain still valid? Does he still own Grunge's eternal spirit? Or was this all part of a convoluted plan to unconsciously encourage the young man to mature as a person? Did he steal the book and then influence Grunge's dream to give him this revelation, then offer the opportunity to return what was stolen? The creators may have forgotten to resolve that plot point, or maybe it's part of the Wizard of Oz parody, like how Ms. Gulch was never brought up or seen again after she tried to have Toto put down. As much of a jerk as he's prone to be, Grunge never indicated he would have stolen the book himself, much less taken it if he thought it belonged to someone else. He was just grouchy that he didn't win. So maybe the overall moral isn't as solid as it could be, even if he seemingly learned something. The varying art styles on display are put together very well. Disparate techniques and appearances that don't look jarring, allowing for faithful representations of Bone, the Bean World crew, and other featured guest stars. And as mentioned, there is cheesecake aplenty, which is not unexpected either from Campbell or many of the featured characters. One could argue that it's part of the satirical elements at play, not to mention Francine and Katina do mention how sexiness doesn't equate heroism, but given that they aren't exactly drawn to be unattractive, one wonders if that message really gets through.
Note to the filmmakers, Margot Robbie is the wrong person to cast if you want to make this point.
Some references went over my head. It didn't make me want to read more Gen13. Initialing sequential art did not age well at all, and I still would have liked to see a house fall on Grunge. Nevertheless, these comics were not without their charm, and gave some love to some indie work that readers may not have been familiar with. And that's not so bad. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.